Snow had begun to gather along the rail. Fences of Willow Creek the morning, Carolyn Hurst trudged down the road toward the old Benson Ranch. Her worn boots sank into the icy drifts as a freezing wind cut against her cheeks, but she kept moving. Clutching the basket she carried with both hands. Inside were oat biscuits, a small jar of soup, and a letter she hoped would bring a little comfort. Carolyn hadn't planned to stop by the ranch today. She barely had enough food at home for herself. But last night she'd heard word in town, Elias Benson, the quiet rancher who rarely asked anyone for help, had fallen sick. Christmas was only a week away, and winter storms were already sweeping across the valley. If Elias was sick and stuck in bed, someone needed to check on his horses. Everyone relied on him year-round. He loaned tools, helped mend fences, and even split firewood for older neighbors. But when trouble came for him, most folks were too busy preparing for the holiday. Caroline wasn't. She knew what it meant to be alone. She shifted the basket and trudged forward. At the top of the hill, the ranch came into view, snow-covered roofs, smoke barely drifting from the chimney, and the windmill creaking as it fought the cold. It looked peaceful, but something about it felt still in a way that worried her. She climbed the steps and knocked. No answer. She knocked again. Finally, a weak voice came from inside. Doors open. Caroline pushed it gently, and warm air washed over her face. Elias lay in bed near the stove, covered in blankets. He looked pale, exhausted, and far thinner than a man his age should. Elias, she said softly, stepping inside. Heard you weren't doing well. Brought you something. He tried to sit up, but winced and fell back. Carolyn? You didn't have to come out in this weather. I know, she said, setting the basket on the table. But someone had to. His eyes softened, full of both relief and embarrassment. Elias Benson was the sort of man who fixed everyone's problems, but never spoke of his own. The horses, he murmured. I couldn't get out to them this morning. They're restless if no one's there at feeding time. Carolyn removed her coat and laid it over the chair. I'll take care of them. You shouldn't be out there alone. She smiled. I've handled horses since I was 10. Yours won't scare me. Elias managed a half smile, but worry lingered in his eyes. Carolyn ladled soup into a tin bowl and handed it to him. Eat first, then rest. I'll check on the barn. He accepted the food, hands trembling from fever. You're a kind woman, Carolyn. No, she said, shaking her head. Just doing what's right. Wind swept across the open yard as she stepped outside again. The snow had thickened, turning the ranch into a blur of white. Carolyn pulled her scarf tighter and trudged toward the barn. The big doors groaned as she pushed them open. Warm breath filled the air. 5 horses, shifting and restless, greeted her with whinnies. Easy, boys, she said, patting the nearest GELDING dot. Elias kept everything neat, even when sick. The hay bales were stacked properly, the grain bins full. She worked slowly, methodically filling troughs, brushing the horses, checking their hooves. She even found the old mare, Juniper, nosing at her coat pockets. Caroline laughed. I know you. Looking for apples, aren't you? The mare bumped her gently. As if in agreement, she fed her an extra handful of hay. From the corner of the barn, something rattled. A loose window. She crossed over, fastening the shutter tight. Elias didn't need wind blowing in and freezing the place solid. By the time she finished, more than an hour had passed. The horses settled, quiet and content. She took a deep breath, feeling warmth spread through her chest. Helping someone always felt better in winter. She returned inside, shaking snow from her shoulders. Elias was half asleep, bowl empty beside him. Asterisk. You fed them? He murmured. Asterisk. All set, she said. They're happier than most folks in town today. Asterisk. Elias chuckled weakly. Figured as much. They always take to you. Asterisk. She pulled a chair closer to his bedside. When's the last time you had proper rest? Asterisk. He closed his eyes. Yesterday. Tried to get to the barn this morning, but I blacked out halfway across the yard. Asterisk. Carolyn frowned. Elias, that's dangerous. You live out here alone. What if you'd fallen? Would have crawled back, he said stubbornly. She gave him a look. Even sick, the man was as stubborn as an ox. Drink some water, she said, handing him a cup. Elias sipped it slowly. You shouldn't stay long. The weather is getting rough. Asterisk. I am not leaving until I know you can stand without shaking. He blinked at her, clearly moved by her determination. Carolyn, he said quietly, nobody's done this for me in a long time. Asterisk. Well, someone's doing it now. She added more wood to the stove, warming the room. The storm worsened, and Carolyn ended up returning every day. Sometimes twice. She brought food. She cleaned up the house. She kept the horses cared for, brushing their coats until they gleamed. Elias slowly regained strength, enough to sit up without gasping for air. Asterisk. And each day, he seemed more grateful and more comfortable around her. Asterisk. Carolyn never expected anything from him. She wasn't looking for praise or favors. She simply couldn't bear the thought of someone spending Christmas alone and sick. Asterisk. One afternoon, as she placed a fresh pot of stew on the table, Elias watched her with unguarded eyes. You've done more than I deserve, he said. No, she replied. This is what neighbors are supposed to do. Asterisk. He shook his head. Not these days. Folks are too busy or too proud. But you walked through a snowstorm for a man who had nothing to offer you? Asterisk. Carolyn hesitated. You'd have done the same for anyone. Asterisk. Would have tried, he admitted. But most people wouldn't let me. She didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing, just stirred the pot slowly. Asterisk. The sky cleared at last. Snow sparkled across the fields like diamonds scattered over the valley. Asterisk. Elias, now standing and moving slowly but steadily, joined her outside as she finished sweeping snow from the porch. Asterisk. You're up, she said with a smile. Asterisk. Thanks to you, he replied. Doctor came by this morning. Said I need to rest, but I'm past the worst of it. Asterisk. Carolyn nodded, relieved. I'm glad. Asterisk. Elias looked at her thoughtfully. Have you made any Christmas plans? Asterisk. She shook her head. No family nearby. I'll probably stay home and read. Asterisk. He stepped closer, hands tucked into his coat pockets. Would you consider spending Christmas here? I mean, only if you want to. Asterisk. Carolyn blinked. You want company? Asterisk. He gave a soft, embarrassed laugh. Truth is, I wouldn't mind it. And you've already saved me this week. Least I can do is make you a proper Christmas meal. Might not compare to your stew, though. Asterisk. She laughed. I'd like that. Asterisk. His shoulders softened. Good. Asterisk. They spent the morning tending to the horses together. Snow shimmered outside the barn windows as the sound of brushing and soft hooves filled the warm air. Asterisk. Elias moved carefully but with renewed strength. Carolyn watched him, noticing things she hadn't before. The way he moved gently around the horses, the calm patience in his voice, the warmth that returned to his eyes now that the fever was gone. Asterisk. When they finished, Elias turned to her, his breath fogging in the cold. Asterisk. You know, he said, I thought this Christmas would be one of the worst I'd ever seen. Asterisk. And now? She asked. Asterisk. He smiled. It's turned into the best. Carolyn felt a flutter in her chest. They returned inside to a simple meal. Elias had made as best he could roasted vegetables, bread warmed by the stove, and a small pie he insisted on baking. Asterisk they ate by the fire, talking softly while wind whispered outside. And when the meal was done, Elias handed her a small box wrapped in twine. Asterisk, I didn't have time for anything fancy, he said nervously, but I wanted you to have this. Asterisk Carolyn opened the box. Inside was a leather bracelet, simple and handmade, with a small brass charm shaped like a horse. Asterisk, she traced it with her fingers. Elias, it's beautiful. Asterisk, it's nothing special, he murmured. But it's a reminder of your kindness, of the fact that someone cared when I needed it most. Asterisk, her voice softened. I didn't help you for a gift. Asterisk, I know, he said, meeting her eyes. That's why it matters. Asterisk silence settled between them, comforting, warm. Asterisk outside. Snow drifted down in soft curtains, blanketing the world in white. Inside, the fire crackled, casting a golden glow across the room. Asterisk Elias reached out, gently taking her hand. Asterisk Carolyn, he said quietly. I won't forget what you did. Not this Christmas. Not ever. She squeezed his hand back, smiling through the warmth rising in her chest. Good, she whispered, because I won't forget this either. Asterisk, and in that quiet ranch house, with winter singing softly outside, two hearts found something unexpected, kindness turning into companionship. Companionship growing into something deeper. Asterisk, the horses rested peacefully in the barn. The fire glowed bright, and somewhere between the falling snow and the warmth of gratitude, a new beginning took root.